Hi everybody, my name is Jessy and thank you so much for joining me today. Welcome back to another episode of Difficult Conversations. Today we're discussing sexuality. I'm joined by my very best friend Bryan, who has kindly enough come on here to discuss this with me. It's a topic that is so close to my heart, and I think I will explain a little more later why it's so close to my heart. But Bryan is my go-to person when it comes to things like human rights or equality or social movements that are so important right now. He's in the know. So I want to introduce you to him. I hope you'll give him a lot of love. And I really hope that this episode is something that will help a lot of people learn more about the LGBTQ community. So I'd like to introduce you to my best friend, Bryan. Bryan, can you introduce yourself to everyone?
Hi, I'm Bryan. Hello. What can I really say about myself? I'll jump on to why Jess thinks I am the go-to person. I did a cultural studies degree when I was at university, undergraduate. Then I went on to do a human rights law and international relations master's after that. I have interned for a few LGBT publications in the past, and I am myself part of the G in the LGBTQ+. So yeah, that is me.
Woohoo! Welcome! I'm so excited to have you on here. When I started these difficult conversations, I always knew that I wanted to come have you on here and talk to me because, like I said to you earlier, you've taught me so much about LGBTQ community and also just, appropriate ways to approach certain situations. It's always been a massive part of my life in terms of I have many family members who are gay or lesbian or LGBTQ plus. I also have a lot of friends who fall under those categories and are incredibly loud and proud. I think it's the most ridiculous thing in the world to be judged for who you love. And it wasn't until I could connect that into my situation that I realized how important it was to have these conversations and to open people up to the real difficulty and discrimination that people face every day with their sexuality. I'm in a mixed race relationship, so I am actually Filipino and my partner is English, white, and it wasn't until we've experienced discrimination for our relationship that I realized the absurdity it is and how it still happens today, that people face this horrible torment just because of who they love, and even more so when you're in a same-sex relationship. I have many friends who are in same-sex relationships, and I cannot fathom what it's like to live every day and be afraid of who you love and not to be able to express yourself in your loving relationship the way that a straight relationship can. So thank you so much, Bryan, for having this conversation with me. I'm so excited to get started. Is it okay if we start our questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, can you let people know, when did you come out, and what was your coming out like?
My coming out was kind of, I wouldn't say questionable. It was more out of fear. It was really out of fear, to be honest. I told my dad out of fear that he'll find out before anyone else found out. And then after that, I was 16. I never spoke to him about it since. And then, yeah, it just kind of started from there. And then from then on, because they were very much devout Catholics, and they still are, from then on, if I could tell people who have very, stringent beliefs when it comes to religion, once I feel more comfortable doing that, I just felt more expressive, or being able to express myself, quote unquote, and as they say, be who I am. It was very much more of an internet personality that I kind of had, and it wasn't until I went to London for university that I kind of felt more confident. And yeah, as soon as I moved in, first day, met my flatmates, and I was just like, yeah, I'm gay. But that was really the process of my coming out. It was long because I haven't made a big debacle about me coming out. You kind of just knew. I feel like I didn't have to tell you that I was gay.
I I think you never really came out to me, but you told me about your first like semi-relationship. Can I say that?
It's one of those like semi-relationships that made you realize things were actually valid, what you're feeling towards the same sex is valid. So yeah, and that was via the internet.
I hate this. I'm already emotional, and I didn't even think I would be emotional, because this is the thing. Like, if I'm allowed to talk about when we were younger, I remember that you were so hidden within yourself, but then there was a few occasions when we would be with, like, we had a big group, but when we were with our smaller group, it was like you slowly were starting to come out of your shell, and you were becoming a little bit more, I think, who you are now. I want to ask you, and I've never asked you before, do you feel like, and I never, by the way, I want to be clear, I don't want to ask any loaded questions or any questions that is meant to steer you a certain way. I just have, as a friend to you, who's been your friend for the longest time ever, and it's basically, do you feel like you were so shy and so guarded when you were younger because of your sexuality, or is it just that you were shy?
I don't think it's because I'm shy. I think it was the majority of the reason towards that, maybe because I'm uncomfortable in certain settings that make me feel like I can't really be comfortable in. So like, as you were saying, in the bigger groups that we had when we were younger, which there are certain people in that group that made me feel uncomfortable because we went to the same school, and they were very much like the popular boys, and the stereotype of the popular boys in an all-boys Catholic school was just very heteronormative, masculine, and they knew that I wasn't hyper-masculine or very sporty or very like expressive of many masculine traits. So when that kind of goes outside of school and we're in that big circle that we formed as friends, when it came to that, I felt I feel like I couldn't be myself, because to not be a target of some kind of discrimination, because I was already facing forms of discrimination in school just because I was an immigrant and I was brown. Mm-hmm. And then on top of being gay, there are just certain things that I felt really uncomfortable with, and that's why I guess that's why I was more shy when it came to like bigger gatherings or bigger groups when we did have that.
I have a question that I literally just thought about after you said that. Do you feel like your school life, and I'm not just talking about the people in your school, I'm talking about teachers, I'm talking about your classes, do you feel like they helped in any way or hindered your ability to feel comfortable in who you were and also embrace your sexuality?
I feel like the experience I had in a single-gendered Catholic school would have been the same if I went to a mixed school. I feel like if I went to a mixed school, it may have probably been worse.
Oh.
This is coming, yeah. Because my experience on homophobia, it was there,
yeah,
but not to the extent that I see others from like mixed schools. I haven't even heard much of like homophobic abuse in the other boys' school, because there's 2 boys' schools in Plymouth. I haven't heard much kind of homophobic stories there. Mm-hmm. And I know in my school it's much worse, because we are like the rougher version of that single-sex school.
Yeah.
I think it's just any kind of other form of bullying that was occurring in that school, treated the same, sometimes pushed under the rug, sometimes attended to. So yeah, it's kind of dependent. I don't think me going to a Catholic school really made much of a difference. I think it's just more of it being a single-sex all boys school.
That's interesting, actually. That is very interesting, because I never thought that well, obviously it's your opinion, and this is the thing, like I want everybody to be clear and understand that this is 2 people's different experiences.
Yeah.
Another question really is, we lived in very different places in the Philippines, and we have very different family dynamics. Where I was raised, but not the people who raised me, it was more the society that I was raised around. There was this idea that, yes, we embrace homosexuality as long as it's not in my family, and
that's the same with us.
We love gay people as long as it's not our relatives. And even more so, I don't know if this is fair to say, so tell me if it's not fair to say, but at least in conversations that I've had with very similar people to you, in that you are, well, first of all, you're an only child, but also the fact that you are the eldest son. So it doesn't matter that you're an only child. If you had siblings, you're still the eldest son. And there's this feeling in the Philippines, like, and it's still very old-fashioned in the way that they see the eldest son is going to be the one that, you know, carries the family.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that kind of belief affected you in any way, or that fear affected you, feeling like you had to?
It's still affecting me. It is still affecting me. Because my mum doesn't, I feel like she does, but she doesn't have a verbal confirmation that I'm gay. And she has made comments with, and then she, like, a lot of my friends, not a lot, like there's a few of my friends that are like engaged now, getting married, and she has made comments like, oh, you need to find yourself like a fiance now, or like a girlfriend. I want my grandchildren to inherit my jewelry and all this. So like, it is still kind of affecting me. I feel like if she was just quite simple about it in terms of, oh, if you get a partner and then have grandchildren, then I would feel less stress. I would still feel the stress, but just less stress. But she's been quite gendered about what she expects me to have as a partner. So it still affects me. And that is the mentality, and I guess the mentality of your kind of societal mentality on homosexuality in where you grew up, and in comparison to where I grew up, is very much the same.
Would you say that you came out to the internet before you came out to the people closest to you, or the people that were around you immediately?
Oh, definitely. There were the only one other person that kind of knew about my sexuality was, let's call him Luke. So Luke, he knew, and he was the only person that knew. And on my internet presence when I was 13, 14, I ensured that no one that I knew followed me. That's when I was very young. I mean, it's good. At 14, everyone should be like this at 14. But on Facebook, that's when I started to become very selective on who was on my friends list. And then when I did post a picture of myself, I planned it. It's basically,
Gosh.
I planned when it would be. So if it does get circulation, if it gets circulated on Tumblr, because it's very easy to track when it gets popular on Tumblr back in the day. I know that it wouldn't be in the UK, and I knew it wouldn't be in the Philippines. So at 14, 15, I was very much a media planner, a marketing manager.
And it's safe to say that Bryan, since he was probably about 13 years old, has always been a big social media influencer, and he's only grown. He's grown through the years, and you know, I love the authenticity that you have. But I want to know, first of all, that must have been a lot of work and a lot of pressure to hide such a big part of yourself. How did you cope, and was it actually as tough as it sounded?
It wasn't tough, and I feel like you know how my parents were back when I was that age. You just learn how to kind of twist your ways to make it appropriate for them.
But there's a reason. I think that's the important thing to remember, is there is a reason, because you hid yourself, or it's not like you hid yourself, but I guess you were doing what made you comfortable,
which was very hard work. And I guess that's where the hard work and like the stress comes in. It didn't have to be that hard, but it was, you know.
Looking back now, do you think you would have done anything differently in your early stages of coming out?
No, because my life would have still been the same.
Really?
My situation in my family would be the same still.
What advice would you have for somebody? Think back to 13-year-old Bryan, because there will be somebody who comes across this and will really resonate with your story and could be just about to embark in their journey. What advice would you give? Because you've admitted now that you made your journey so difficult, and I think that it was because for you at the time it was the easiest you could do, even though it wasn't. What advice can you give to 13-year-old Bryan right now?
Come out of your shell. There's no point hiding, because it's going to come out regardless. Like, I don't hide myself in any situation now, regardless of where I am. I'm the same where I am now. I'm the same with you, and I am the same with my parents. Like, I don't switch up my attitude anymore. So come out of that little reclusive shell that you have created yourself because of fear of whatever that fear is, and just come out, because at the end of the day, you're just making your life harder for yourself than it really is. You don't have to say to anyone, you don't have to come out to anyone, but just be yourself and things will get easier. Your life from then onwards will be easier than how it was for me and how I created my life for me.
For me, I think as a friend who wanted to support you and tried to support you through those early stages, what I would like to say to 13-year-old Bryan / anybody starting their journey is, please learn to love yourself enough to share the real you, because the sooner you do that, the sooner you can let your allies like me, like Bryan, love you. You know, we can't love you until you're ready to show us your real self. And I hear this quote all the time. It's corny as hell, but those who matter don't mind, and those who mind don't matter. But yes. Oh, so emotional. And I wanted... So we're moving forwards now in your journey, essentially. But I wanted to, in case it wasn't absolutely clear to everybody, you outright, verbally came out to your dad. You haven't done that yet with your mum. Mm-hmm. Can I ask you why? Why your dad and not your mum, or why not both?
Why not both? Okay, in all honesty, I think when I said that to my dad, that was just to get it out. So there's one person in the family that knew before I told someone. I only told my dad at that time because my mum used to work night shifts, and it was 7, 8 p.m. That was the only reason. And because of how traditional my mother is, I fear that. And at the time, I didn't want to say anything because she was kind of my source of income when I was a bit more financially unstable. And I was scared that if I came out to her, that could possibly be cut off, and then where would I go?
I know that there'll be some parents watching this who, might have kids who've just come out, or might have an inkling that their kids want to come out. What kind of advice can you give for them? Having lived through that and having had the situation you had with your parents, what do you wish you could have said, or what do you wish you had available to you to make that situation easier?
Get rid of the fear that they may or may not know that they're imposing on the child regarding sexuality. When that's kind of more addressed and settled, the child will feel more inclined to kind of come up to you and feel ready to discuss things with you. As a parent, just ensure that you don't kick them out. That's the last thing they need to hear. That's the last thing they need to kind of experience. And also, if they do come out, just know that they're probably not going to change. If the one thing you fear when your child comes out is they're going to change, most likely, more often than not, they won't change who they are. What they'll be changing is their ability to be more themselves than they were before.
I don't know how controversial it is to say this. You said, you never came out to us, and I really love that, because how many people come out as straight, And I want to get to a point in life, I don't know how possible this is, where you don't have to come out. But how important do you think it is to come out?
I don't think it's important. I think as an LGBT person, as a member of the LGBT, and this is to anyone, not just to me, it is kind of your job, but also not. But it's your job to kind of understand who is going to be supportive before you even before you're comfortable. There's nothing wrong with coming out. Coming out is totally fine. If you feel like that's what you have to do to announce your sexuality to everyone that you know, then do that. But for me, I felt like I didn't have to because none of my friends did.
I can't help but think that you coming out but not coming out, you being so open and unapologetically you, I feel like the reason they felt like they could come out was because you had done it already.
I don't know if I can take credit for that, but I'm going to say thank you.
No, but this is the thing. I think you should realize the power of your journey, because you don't realize, I don't think, how you opened up something that to some Filipinos in our community was so closed off. In a way, I feel like your coming out / not coming out is so modern and is so how it should be anyway. You know, yes, I have a boyfriend.
Yeah.
So what? This is me.
Yeah.
And I love that. If I may share a little bit of myself, because I'm so conflicted in my life, and I already know that the moment I say this, there are going to be people in a really mixed situation. I know that I have a lot of incredibly religious people who follow me, and so I never thought in a million years I would be talking about this publicly, but I don't know what I am. I am in a straight relationship. I am in a relationship with a man. So I have been in conflict, and I never have talked about this situation because I don't class myself as a lesbian or bisexual. And you kind of said to me, oh, it's fluidity. I want to share this part of myself because I'm all about transparency, all about openness. And basically, whilst I am in a heterosexual relationship, I have been in 2 previous relationships with women before. I have been in 2 relationships, one not long, they were never long term, but I genuinely feel like at least one of them I fell head over heels in love with. Incidentally enough, I was thinking about her the other day and discovered she has now married a man. But this is what I mean, is that I never labeled myself when I was in those relationships as, oh, I'm a lesbian or I'm bisexual. And I said to my partner, you know, in reality, there's a chance we could split up because, you know, we have to be realistic about it, about life. And I said, I don't want people to assume that I will suddenly, because I'm with a man right now, I'll be with a man again. I don't see it as a sexual or sexuality kind of thing. I just fall in love with souls. And I never knew what to label myself because it felt so wrong to be like, I'm heterosexual.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I'm not too familiar with, because I do identify myself as a cisgendered homosexual. So I am just very much attracted to men, both sexually and emotionally. Mm-hmm. That is me. Like, personally, I wouldn't be able to think the way you just described how you are feeling. But I know a lot of other people are in the same situation. They would never be like, they wouldn't want to be expected to, just because there's a pattern of, let's say in your case, a pattern of men in partners in your life, that women can't be in the picture.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying fluidity, though it's a label, it's also not a label, because it's not saying you're heterosexual, it's not saying you're homosexual. So it's difficult. I may not be the right person to discuss this because I'm not well versed in that kind of situation.
I think that was just me coming out to you. But
yeah.
No, because I never thought of it as coming out. I've spoken to, very much like you, I have spoken to my dad about it, never to my mum really, and I don't have an answer why. But basically, there's been several occasions where I've said to my dad, listen, I am in a straight relationship right now, but I need you to know that there is a chance that I could be with a woman. I've never told him I've been with women, and I know that my dad, in his heart, you know, he loves love, so he's very emotional too. So I think that he would be, you know, he's always embraced you, he's always embraced our other friends who are gay, and so I don't think he would have a problem with it. I've never given my mum the chance, but I feel like she would have a problem with it. And so I just don't want that aggro, because I never knew what to call myself anyway. And not to take away any pain from any gay person who has struggled. I understand my privilege being with opposite sex, that I don't have to have that worry. But the side of me that's like, well, what if I do fall in love with a woman again? And what if I find my soulmate in a woman? I have this discomfort in feeling like I haven't shared that part of myself, and so I'm scared that it will shock people and in a negative way, and it makes me afraid, I guess. But like I said to you, in the ideal world, it would be great if everybody could just love anybody.
Do you think that fear, sorry, I'm going to ask you now, Miss Interviewer, do you think that fear with your mother is because of the Filipino in her?
100%, I would say yes. That fear comes a lot because my mum is very religious. I don't want to offend anybody who's religious and actually embraces LGBTQ, you know. I don't want to say that, but the reality is that my mum is religious. My family are incredibly religious. Which is what makes me laugh a little bit, because I have many cousins who are gay and
are also religious.
Yes, and so this is another reason I wanted to talk about this, is because when we went to the Philippines last year and we were talking about, you know, Scott and I were very open, and because we wanted to share, you know, our friends like you and our other friends, and like I said before, I have met most of my guy friends are gay, but it just happened, I guess. And like I said, I'm talking to my cousin and talking about how I know that the UK has so far to go when it comes to embracing the LGBTQ community. But would it be fair to say that in the Philippines it's still really quite, whilst it's better now, it's not quite there yet?
Socially, okay, this is coming from someone who goes to the Philippines 2 or 3 times, every 2 to 3 years, sorry. I feel like being gay in the Philippines is not a taboo as such as it was when I did grow up there 20 odd years ago. Definitely not now. I feel like being gay and being outwardly gay in the Philippines would be the same as someone being outwardly gay going into town in any city in the UK. The one difference that is there is that gays aren't really supported legally, like in terms of marriage, in terms of like same-sex partnerships, because government and Catholicism and religion are still interlinked with legalities and like government legislation. Sadly doesn't protect the LGBTQ community.
I talked about certain things with my cousin, and he was just so shocked at the difference in terms of treatment of gay people, or the gay rights that people have in the UK. And again, it's not perfect, but it's better than it was, and it's better than in the Philippines right now. And it made me sad, it made me feel broken a little bit that I have relatives who are, you know, not that they're hiding or that they're living in fear, but they're not living 100% their true authenticity, even though they're absolutely beautiful and have absolutely every right to love who they want to love. I'm so grateful that you're having this conversation with me. I always feel like I learn so much from you, and I mean that, I mean it. I think you're so woke, whereas I'm waking up.
I mean, I still have a lot to wake up to.
I think it's one of those things though where we both can openly admit that there's a lot we have to learn, but even more reason why I want people to have these difficult conversations, and even more so why I want to do this so publicly, is because we all have a lot to learn, and as long as you're open to learning, that is where the change and the positive changes will happen. And I encourage everyone to have these difficult conversations, and if you can do it publicly, because, you know, Bryan and I have shared our input or our experiences and our thoughts. However, we understand that there is people who have completely different experiences with the same topic we've discussed, and we encourage you to let us know, you know, your thoughts and anything that you want us to learn about. Bryan, I want to ask you one big thing, and it's for anybody who I've asked you slightly the same question, but do you have any advice for anybody right now who is experiencing maybe discrimination and or difficulty because of their sexuality?
The one thing I could in a difficult situation as a gay man, because that's all I can really relate this to, because I don't know how gay women experience things in trans. As a gay man, it does get better, and if you think it's so cliche, but if you think the current environment you're in may not be as accepting to how you want to live your life, the way that you want to live your life, there are definitely easier ways to kind of get out of that. And this tip will be easier for younger people. So like if you're 17 going to uni or something, just go to a different city. It doesn't have to be a big city, just a different city, a different town. Go to university there, because trust me, that's going to change your life. And if you are in an older, like let's say you're my age now, still in a struggle, there's still a lot of people that are out there in the same boat as you, and you are not alone in that struggle that you are feeling. So don't feel discouraged to still come out and be who you are. There's so many things I can say, but there's so many things that I don't know what to suggest, because at the same time, I'm quite privileged as well. Honestly, it is gonna be just a better situation for yourself, for your mental health, and for the people around you if you just live your life. You don't have to say that you're gay. I said this earlier. You don't have to say to anyone that you're gay, but if you start living the way that you want to live your life, then it's going to be better for you mentally. And believe it or not, it may actually even improve your relationships, not even like romantically, but friendships, your family. How you approach people is going to be different as well. And you're not going to feel different if you live the way that you want to live as yourself.
I really love that, and I love how you mentioned, your relationships will improve, because I agree with it. Your relationships will improve because anytime that you feel like you're hiding such a big part of yourself, you become a different person, especially a different person who you aren't even. And if I'm allowed to give advice, or more just some kind of inspiration, but basically, the world is hard enough without you making it harder because you are ashamed of who you love. Like Bryan said, it doesn't matter the color of your skin or their gender. None of that should matter, because at the end of the day, you are two adults who just want to find love in this world. And I think it is one of the greatest pleasures that we have as human beings to be able to love. And so do not add that barrier to yourself. Just let the world accept you for who you are. And like I said to you before, it doesn't matter. Those people who mind, they really don't matter, and they won't matter when you're finally happy and thriving and feeling great about yourself because you finally accepted yourself. There are going to be people who won't accept you, but as long as you accept yourself, I think that's all that really matters.
Exactly.
So, Bryan, thank you so much for having this conversation with me.
Thank you for having me.
I really feel like there's going to be a part 2, but on a different topic with you, because I've had so much fun talking to you.
Well, just send me the Zoom link and I'll jump on it.
Please, everybody, give Bryan a lot of love. Bryan, if people want to know more about you, because I have already said that you are a social media guru, where can they find you?
Get hold of me on Instagram. That's probably my most active social media platform right now. That is at Bryan Bernal. That's BryanBernal. And you can also follow me on Twitter. That's Bryan Bernal as well, at Bryan Bernal, but without the vowels. So it's just Bernal. If you don't know what vowels are, that's AEIOU. So take that out of the letters and you will find me.
I will, don't worry. I will link I will link your Instagram and your Twitter. But thank you for teaching us our vowels. Maybe that can be our next conversation.
Oh, you could.
I wanted to say thank you to everybody who watched this episode of Difficult Conversations. It was truly a difficult conversation, but I'm really glad that we had it. I really encourage more people to have these conversations. It's a great way to learn for yourself, but also to teach other people. So spread only love, positivity, and genuine care for every human being in this world. Again, thank you so much, Bryan. And
you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
As always, I would like to say, I hope you have a great day. Please stay kind to yourself, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.